Hello, and welcome back to Where Are All My Friends? This week is with Andy, or the Breathing Backwards, and we get to introducing him pretty early in the actual recording of this, so I'm not going to go too deep on that. I just want to say really quickly, thank you for listening. This podcast has continued to grow so much, and it's all been because of word of mouth and you guys spreading the word, and I feel like I thank you guys for listening a lot, but I also it's huge. This is something that I'm so passionate about doing and I love it so much. So thank you for spreading the word. It's really, really incredible. Andy's story is a really fun one. He's a guest that I had known him from the internet, but we didn't really talk too much before this. So we get some really fun organic stories and I'm kind of learning in real time. And y'all know how much I like that. Hit him up. I linked all of his social media and everything in the episode description. If you love this episode, share it with a friend. Give me 5 stars on iTunes, leave a review, subscribe on Spotify, all that good stuff. Massively helpful. With that said, enjoy the show. Here we go. Where are all my friends? We've got another one, and I think y'all know it well enough, but I love doing episodes with people who are internet friends that I've never really gotten to talk too deep, and this is another one of those. So this week is Andy, or the artist, The Breathing Backwards. So what up, dude? Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man.
Sir.
No, it's cool. Right before we started recording this, we were talking and I was like, yo, it's so sick to talk to you and me. And you were just like, yo, but actually remember in Cleveland that second that we met? And I was like, holy fuck.
That's the coolest shit though, when you barely meet people.
I know. It's so nuts. And it's so funny because that night was such a blur to me. It was the beginning of the first ever version 3 Where All My Friends tour. And I was stressing, dude. I hope that I was chill to you because I was so worried. We had a projector on that tour and it wasn't working. I was running back and forth and the merch was all crazy that day. And I was just trying to keep everything going. So that was a blur of a day, but that was crazy. It still was
I totally forgot that we had met until earlier today. Cause I was going back to the podcast and stuff and I was like, oh yeah, shit. We actually did at that one show.
Yeah, fuck, that's crazy.
Because I know more that day more from when I first met Nick, and I forgot everyone was there, Shaney and the Family Pet Boys and 93. Everyone was fucking there. It was crazy.
Which is so nuts because I think that with that entire circle of music, there's one show even before I got involved that is constantly talked about, an iconic show in New York City where so many kids met.
That I was actually at.
You were at that show?
Funny enough. What? Yeah, at the one in Queens. It was Shinny, Cold War Gang, Fatsy and Dub were there, Family Pet played a set.
Yep.
I remember because I told my dad, this was the OG.
It's way back.
Fucking JV was there, Gucci was there, everyone was there.
And
it was so early on.
Who was it? It was the girl, the tattoo artist that put it together.
Yeah. Yep.
Just because she was yo, I fuck with this music. She wasn't even trying to get deep in it.
And I remember I told my dad, I was like, hey dad, can I go to, I'm from Boston. So I was in Boston, 4 hours away from Queens. And I told my dad, I was like, hey, can I go to Queens for a day and see all my internet friends and stay with this dude who I've never met? And he goes, no. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Shit, that was a dumb question to me to ask. So I straight up lied to him. I had a friend up in Vermont that I would go and stay with. And I was like, hey dad, can I go to Wolfie's place in Vermont? He's like, yeah, sure. And I just drove to Queens.
Amazing.
I stayed with Mitch and Matt from Family Pet.
No
at
shit.
Some random Airbnb. Just pulled up, met everyone there. Dude, that show, I'm so glad I lied to my dad for that because that was the start. That's where I met everyone.
That was an iconic night. I hear legends of that night. So it's cool that version 3 tour in any capacity represented any more of that. That's so cool that's where you and Nick met. And for the listener, Nick is Guardin, who was on the podcast. And you guys ended up living together, right?
I met him 3 times in real life. And then I was like, let's live together. That's a crazy story too. I needed a roommate because I was moving out of my ex-girlfriend's house. And I was just texting him and he's like, man, I just want to get out of New York. And I was like, how soon do you want to get out of New York?
You're
he's like, really soon. And I was like, how dead ass are you? And he's like, I'm so dead ass. I just want to leave. And I was like, bet, come to Columbus, Ohio. He said,
Damn.
Okay.
Oh, and that's how that happened. Okay.
Yeah,
that connects a piece in my head there. Okay,
Insane.
well, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm getting excited. I love connecting these pieces, and I'm sure it'll tie into your story. But where I really like to start the podcast is I feel like every artist has a story, right? Like as you grow up, you have that pivotal moment where you kind of find your thing, where you're like, okay, cool. Like there's whatever's happening in school, but then you find that thing that you obsess over where you're like, yo, this is different. I'm super into this. And sometimes it's music out the gate with people. Sometimes it's a couple other things, but I'm obsessed with hearing those stories with artists. So where did you first get into music? What's that look like? Like, where were you growing up? How did you find it? What were you inspired by? Like, paint me that picture.
Yeah, we can go fucking all the way back if you want. Because I remember in middle school, I got into EDM. And I was like, I want to be a DJ. I would do that thing where I'd find something and I'd go super hard in it and then like forget it a couple months later. So I was like, I want to be a DJ. So I got a little DJ thing and DJ software. And I was like, that's cool. And then I like got into like hip hop. So I was like, I'm going to start making beats. So I started making beats and they were all really, really bad. And I was like, these are really bad. Like I should do something else. So then I got into stuff like, I got into rap, like Atmosphere and like Idea and like all the Rhyme Sayers guys. And I was like, dude, I'm an intellectual. I'm deep. Like, let me rap about like life and stuff. And I started doing that. And that was also really bad.
You know what's funny though, is literally a note that I had. Like when I listened to, because I finally hit you up to be like, yo, we need to do a podcast when you dropped the Swingsets EP. Because I was like, I love this. And
Thank you.
One of the things that I noted, I feel like it was still feeling it. I am bad at remembering, but I was like, this sounds a lot like Atmosphere.
I knew exactly. Yeah, it is still feeling it 100%.
That's so funny. Okay, so continue your story, but that's crazy that that was an influence.
Because I haven't like really heavily listened to like Atmosphere or Idea or any of them I still listen to A$AP Rock a lot, but like Atmosphere and Idea, I haven't really heavily listened to them in so long. But that like just kind of lingers because that was like the first thing I did for like junior and senior year of high school. We had a little project, me and my friend, called Station 6, and it's really bad, and I hope it's all off the internet. But then it was freshman year of high school. My best friend Blake, who goes by Stairwell, everyone should listen to Stairwell. He was like, "You might fuck with this dude Bones," and he played me Bones, and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." And I was on YouTube and it was like a Starry had uploaded it. So I was like, oh, cool. Like, let me check a Starry. So I was scrolling through. And like the rap that I'd been doing, like slowly just was getting like darker and darker. But it wasn't like I'm a pop punk kid, but I didn't get into pop punk till like college. So it's like, I was like leaning towards it all, but I didn't really know anything.
Interesting.
And I found I've been doing well, but nothing nowhere. And I was
shit.
Like you can just
what year,
like be bummed out.
What year was like your Starry find? Like that early
it had to have been
Starry.
like late 2016, early 2017. Cause it was, I remember like being in my sophomore year dorm, like this is sick. Like you can just be bummed out, but also like rap music. Cause I couldn't sing.
Such a funny way to put it.
This is sick. So I like found Nothing Nowhere. I got super into that, super into all of them, Peep and all the OGs and all that. And then I was like, oh, I want to try making this. So I just found a bunch of Killed Myself beats and I was like, boom. And that was the start of it.
Damn,
that was
dude.
the first Breathing Backwards thing ever, was just I found Nothing Nowhere and I got a bunch of Killed Myself beats and I was like, I can rap.
It's so wild. It's so wild that like, I'm sure that Joe knows how much of an influence he was. Oh, but like those, I would say like, and even like Bones, you know, and like a Starry, like, it felt, at least to me, when I was kind of starting to see all of that was really the only ones there. And you didn't fully like, and I know that there's so much more, but like that, for some reason, the internet was just like, here, I'm going to guide you all to the same place. And like,
and it
so
did.
Many
I mean, that's
people...
what started all of it, you know? Cause then Shinny had a song on a Starry, or like one of those YouTube channels. He had the cover of Tears Don't Fall that This shows how fucking out of the scene I was. I didn't know it was a cover till I heard the
Oh, you didn't know it was a Bullet for My Valentine song?
Because I was singing it to my friends, but I was singing Your Tears Don't, like Gianni does. Yeah. And my friends were like, dude, are you singing Bullet for My Valentine? And I'm like, am I? And they're like, yeah, you know you are, right? And I was like, oh shit, like I should listen to Bullet for My Valentine.
Okay,
like, so this is not what I was expecting.
You found, so your progression of music was EDM into hip hop.
EDM is sort of even like separate from it all. It was really once I found like hip hop and started making beats that kind of like led slowly into kind of everything where it is now. And
then you find pop punk after that?
Yeah, my friend Blake is the one who put me on a pop punk, and I just became a pop punk kid. He like would sing, what's the one Neck Deep song? I like it because
Oh,
she's smart, hedged
is that
and
a part of me?
independent. Part of me. He would sing a part of me. And I was like, what song is that? And he like showed me and I was like, oh, this is cool. So I found like the story so far and I was like, I'm a pop punk kid now.
Interesting. That's so wild that it's happening
It's
like that right
backwards.
now.
It's
Right.
backwards. I wasn't a pop punk kid when it was a thing. I like just found it all now. So
Yeah.
not now, but in
Right. Like
college.
it happened almost afterwards. Like so many of the people making music that you found first were influenced by it.
Yeah.
And then you found it later.
I listened to Nothing Nowhere before I listened to like the story so far.
That's
Which seems
so wild.
so off. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so during all that time, you're growing up in Boston, yeah?
I was in Boston till like 2016, and then I went to college in Columbus, and I've been here just since I went to college.
Got it.
So yeah, in Boston was when I was doing the shitty rap stuff, and then got to college in Columbus, and Blake was like, "Check this stuff out," and that's kind of when it changed.
Crazy. Like, so in Boston, did you have like, were you musically trained at all? Or like, did you think this would become your life? Like, what did it look like before that? Or like, when did it start to be like, yo, you know what? Like, fuck it, I'm all in.
Dude, I still don't know music at all. I'm so
Interesting.
It's amazing how I graduated with a degree in audio engineering and I still like don't know any. I'll get a beat and I'll send it to Brody and I'll be like, hey, what key is this in? And he'll be like, oh, it's this key. And then I'll set my tuning. I'll be like, thanks, dude. Like that's how I figure out keys and stuff. I can't even do that by ear. I don't know how I survived. But
you know what's crazy about that though? I think that that's something that's so cool, right? Like I think that it's so awesome that you can have the vision or want to create something and you don't need to be this crazy formally trained artist. Like in my opinion, that is the sign of like a musical renaissance. And I think that's fucking amazing. And I think that's so
what I love
cool,
about the internet.
Like I hope it inspires more people to create.
Yeah. There's definitely, I mean, it's way easier to make music now than it's ever been.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay,
I just started rapping and then I was like, maybe I could try singing and auto-tune. I was like, ooh, let me do this. Perfect. I was like, this is the sickest thing in the world. Now I can say that I'm a singer and I couldn't tell you a fucking single scale.
Wow.
And that's absurd. That's absurd. Music is absurd.
Actually, here we are. So you went to college for audio engineering, yeah?
Yeah. So in high school, when I found out that I couldn't make beats, like I was stuck at like creating the beats, I had like a lot of fun mixing them, like just learning about like, what does a compressor do? Like, how does EQ work? So I like didn't know what I wanted to go to college for. And I was just doing that senior year, like in the computer lab, just making beats and then mixing them. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not musically inclined. Like, I'm really bad at like remembering music theory, but here's like a thing that I can do without knowing music.
Yeah.
That was kind of what I was like, I want to be a part of music, but I don't know how to do music. But like, I can know how to push buttons and like turn knobs and stuff. So I was like, I'm just going to do that. And it's cool because, you know, in college, I was surrounded by music without knowing how to play music.
Yeah.
Just recording it.
Yeah, that's legit really, really cool to me because I think I put myself in those shoes and I don't know if I would have like the courage or the grit to be like, fuck it, I'm still going to go for it. Like it could be so easy to be like, I don't know if I should do this. I don't know this and this, but instead you just played into the strengths.
Yeah. I'm very lucky that like my parents were supportive of it. I doubt myself more than my parents do, which is, I'm so fucking lucky for that, dude. If they weren't like, you should do whatever you want, I would have probably gone for like business or something boring. But I was like, all right, cool, I'll try it.
That's another cool thing to hear because that can be such a formative part of those early days and like getting into what you get into is just like your parents and how they influence
100%.
you.
Yeah.
So that's sick. Shouts to like supportive parents.
Shout out to parents. My dad likes my music more than I do.
Yo.
He's like, oh, I listen to your song because I'm very awkward about it, like in real life, because it's all like so much of a bummer. And he's like, oh, like I don't really like what they're about, but I like your songs. You know, you're really good. And I was like, all right, thanks. And I'll like brush it off. But no, he's a king.
That's
my mom's
awesome.
great too.
That's really cool. Okay, so high school, you realize you kind of find your strength there, and then you decided to go for audio engineering for college. What school was that?
Yeah, Capital University. It's like right outside of Columbus. I just went for the program. I was like, this program seems cool, so I'm just gonna say fuck it.
What was that experience like? Because I did not go to. I mean, I went to a couple semesters, and then I started touring so early, and I don't know if I've had any guests on that have gone to school specifically for something in music
somewhat
or
music
engineering.
related, yeah. It was cool. It's definitely like I didn't go to OSU on purpose because it's like I love being around it, but like I can't do like college, like Capital's a very, very small school. We called it Capital High School because the campus was like the size of my high school.
Whoa. Okay.
Very small. You kind of knew especially in that program, like you knew everybody. It was, there was like, there'd be 2 classes. Like just like me, I think we graduated maybe with like somewhere between like 30 to 50 people just in that program, not in
small
school. But yeah, and I really liked it because it was like I got some of the college experience without being overwhelmed because I would have been really overwhelmed if I went to like a big school. But it was like found my friends and we'd go to, house parties that were just like 10 of us sitting around on a couch, and it was Capital was a good mix of like college, but like not too intense.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the program was cool, like learning about stuff that I care about and like just being able to just do it, to be in a studio with bands.
What were like some of the specific things you learned? Like, was it more just like the actual technical best practices of how to record specific instruments or how to bounce things out, how to use compressors even better, things like that?
Yeah, it was a lot of that. They did like they did a little of everything. So it was like a little theory, a little music history, like a little bit of live sound. But I kind of knew what I wanted was like recording bands. That was like always the thing that I was super into. Yeah. So what was cool about it is, the program was good, but they didn't like teach you so much. Not trying to knock the program, a little bit, but like what I got the most benefit out of was there's like a conservatory of music attached to the school. So I would just be like, hey, we would have like open studios and I'd just be like, hey, do you guys want to come in? I'll record you. And people would say, yeah. So I just like sat in there and like figured out like, this is how microphones work. And like, let me try this, let me try that. Just like, it could have been a lot of things depending on what you wanted to do, but what I really liked was recording bands in the studio. So I just did that a whole lot. And yeah, it was like figuring out like, what does a compressor do? Like what microphones work for this? Like, where should I place them and all that?
But it gave you a platform, it gave you in a physical space, and it gave you access to these recording tools and instruments and space that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Oh yeah, we were very lucky. We got like a whole new building for like media stuff. Yeah. In the first semester that we were allowed access to like open studio is when they opened this new like fucking like multi-million-dollar building with like the sickest studio. We were I was spoiled being able to be in Capital University Studio F, That was like, yeah, dude, we were spoiled with that one. But
that's actually a really cool story and like experience of school to hear, because I personally am of the belief that you learn and hold on to a lot more knowledge through physical application or for practical application over just theory and reading. So the fact that you did go to a college and have that environment, but really it was a lot more of you just getting into a studio and having access to that and tinkering is kind of cool.
I've forgotten a lot of what they taught us. Like, that's why I don't know theory, because like, we had a theory class, but I barely tried in it, and that's why I'm bad at like every gen ed, because we'd have like gen eds and I would like barely try in them. Right. Like I can record a band, not to toot my own horn. I can record a band like no one's business. But if you ask me to do literally anything else, nope.
Yeah, funny. That's really funny.
One-trick pony.
I think that also as a creative, when you have a vision of what you're going for, it doesn't necessarily matter what the specific formal education of it is or the technical best way to do it. Be it editing a song or a photo or anything. If you have the vision of what you're going for in your head and you can move the knobs and record things and put them in the right places to get that final sound, then like you've accomplished your mission.
That's why I really like doing stuff like this, because I haven't recorded a band in forever. Like I just don't have like the access to stuff. But like doing this stuff, like my own vocals, it's like very free. I can like experiment and try a bunch of different shit. Yeah. It's like, because I can record a band like how I would to make them sound good. Like simple stuff. But it's almost more fun doing all the shit myself, because it's like, ooh, I could try doing this. Like let me try doing that. It's definitely more fun doing my own stuff.
Yeah, I think so. And like you also probably don't have that pressure of like, man, I don't want to let these guys down. Like I want to deliver this polished product. Where with yourself, you're like, I don't know, what if I totally messed this up, but like distorted it in a fun way? And then
exactly. I let myself down, but I can take it.
Yeah, that's right. Can your dad take it though? Will you let down your biggest fan here? Like,
well, that's the whole thing. I could post a song with a shitty mix and he'll be like, this is a great song. And I'll be like, no, it's not. It's fucking bad. It's bad mix. He likes my shit more than I do. I'll put myself down so hard and he'll be like, it's a good song. Cause he doesn't like know everything that went into it. And all the like 100 bounces I had to do before I aced the mix.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I feel like that's maybe even played a benefit in my career in music is because I'm not formally trained and I can't play. When I hear a song I like, it stops there. I'm just like, oh, this is good. And it's like, well, yeah, but like the mix is bad or like this sounds weird or this is off. And I'm like, I don't care. It's good.
When I was first getting into this stuff, people would be like, man, the 808s are out of tune. And I'm like, yeah. I hear that. They totally are. And I have no
You're like,
idea.
Bet, for sure.
Working like with Brody and stuff on like, and like understanding it, like now I can tell. But when it was first a thing, I was just like, I don't care.
Talk to me about your friendship with Brody because I don't know him very well. But it sounds like he was a big piece of all this for you.
Yeah, he's like, he went to the same school as me. Like I've known him since like 2016, since my first month at school.
Yeah.
He also went for audio engineering, so we were in the same program and we had all the same friends and we hung out all the time. And he is really good at songwriting. Like that's the thing, like my avenue through the audio engineering program was like recording bands. His was like, he really liked songwriting. So that's kind of what he focused on in school.
Yeah.
And I kind of just brought him into it in like maybe 2017, right before we dropped our first song, the Too Long for the album. Mm-hmm. He hit me up and he's like, hey man, like I know you do hip hop stuff. Like I've been trying to write hip hop stuff. Like, can I make a beat for you? And I was like, sure. And I sent him 3 Nothing Nowhere songs and he comes back with the beat that was Too Long.
Oh,
so he like just first fucking try. I was like, this is perfect. And we made it our first single. And then he just kept going.
Dude, I love that. And I think that's another lesson of like the KISS, K-I-S-S, keep it simple, stupid. Like, it's really easy to overthink things at times, 100%. But if you heard it, like, you know, first try, it's like, cool, run it. And that's awesome to see when that works.
And that was like really cool when we were doing the album. Cause it was like, I mean, we did it in the same room most of the time. Cause I would just like, when we did the album, a lot of it, I lived in the attic of their house. That's why a lot of my lines are about Brody's attic. Cause I literally just lived in the attic of their house. So I'd come downstairs and we just write a song, which was cool. Cause it was like, he'd be like, a lot of that, the keep it simple, stupid is what a whole lot of our partnership was. He'd be like, is this good? And I'd be like, stop overthinking it. And I'd be like, do you like this melody? He'd be like, stop overthinking it. Throw it down.
Whoa. That's fucking sick.
Yeah.
That's really cool to have that dynamic that you guys could balance each other out like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was cool. And it was just cool working with him. Cause like I said, man, I don't know theory, but like I know like make the guitar go, and he's like, okay. And I'm like, yeah, perfect.
That's so funny.
Yeah. It's always fun working IRL with people. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's crazy that they're the luxury, or like, you know, it's a luxury that you don't have to now. Like the fact that technology has let us even not need to is crazy. Yeah.
I mean, oftentimes now I'll be close enough to someone, they're like, send me stems so I can kind of like arrange it how I want. But there's nothing like Brody would lay a part down and it'd be like, hey, change that one tiny thing. And he'd just do it on the spot. Yeah. It just kept the creativity going. And it was just like, that's why that album is one of my favorites because every little decision was made like specifically from both of us. Like this should be this and that should be that. Like we got to like do it in real time.
Damn.
As opposed to just sending files, you know?
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. I feel like I saw that firsthand. There was like this little era. I think it was before, oh no, it was a couple months before the follow-up West Coast where all my friends tour.
Yeah, the part
But
2.
it was like Shinny, 93, Fat C. There was just this like this magical window where they were together just writing all the time and we'd be at the house and it was just like song after song and watching them work and like I was honored to see it.
Yeah, and I'm sure if you ask all them, they'll be like, yeah, that was like some of the best stuff we ever made because you're just there with the people.
Yeah. Well, it's like I was talking to Fatsy a little bit about it and we didn't know what it was at the time. We didn't know that it was magic. Like it felt normal. It felt the way that it should be and it flowed. Yeah. But I mean like that was so many of the songs. Like that was like Gemstones from Shinny and that was Old Me from them. I mean, everybody basically dropped that track.
Yeah, everyone was on that shit.
But yeah, that was like a really cool little window of everything.
It's great. It's great. I mean, that's why me and Brody we're actually, weirdly enough, this is strange timing. Later this month, we're doing a whole fucking Bon Iver thing. I already rented out an Airbnb, some like cabin in the fucking woods, middle of nowhere, Ohio, and we're just gonna go there and try and crank out an album in like 5 days.
Wow.
He's bringing his guitar, he's bringing his axe effects. We're just gonna go and just grind shit.
You said like you're going for a Bon Iver type vibe, or
no? Just because I think that's how Bon Iver like recorded their first, second, the one Bon Iver album that's fire. They were just like in a cabin and just wrote all that shit. Because I haven't done the like working with someone in real life in so long, so I was just like, Brody, let's go. Let's just crank shit out, be in person, make all the little choices. So it's good. I'm stoked on that.
That's cool. Yeah, wow. I'm excited for the album.
That. We're going to do one more. First time since the last album that we did together. Finally, we're going to be like in person.
That'll be really fun.
He's gotten so much better at vocals, so we can have a lot of input on that. Like I've learned more about music, so I can have input on that. I'm hyped on that shit. I'm really gassed on it.
Dude, and like this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like I love talking to you about this in real time because there will be a time where this podcast has been out and that album will long have been out. And it's like, I love to hear about it in this window because we'll always be able to look back and be like, dude, remember how excited you were? It was like right before it happened.
Yep. And if it slaps, this would be really cool to look at. And if it flops, then we can look at what could have been.
Yeah, right? Just fucking archive, cut out this part, go back and cut out this part and be like, what? No, we never talked about it. No. Let's just purely record us just being like, it's going to be the best thing ever. Here we go.
We'll do another take where we say, it's going to suck. So that way we can
we'll have options.
We were right. We told you.
There we go. Talk to me about swing sets a little bit because that to me, like, again, that's crazy that we met in Cleveland, but, and like, I think that there's a level of just everyone's on everyone's radar to a degree of if you run in like the same kind of friend circles, like you'll see somebody on social media, but at least for me, like I kind of like, I don't think too far into it. I'm like, oh, cool. Like he's doing his thing, whatever. Yep. So I feel like that was kind of the way that I saw your artist project where I'd see it come up and I'd hear something here and there and I'd be like, oh, like cool. Mm-hmm. But then I heard swing sets and it really stood out to me. The first track is Anymore.
Yeah.
That shit fucking.
I love that one.
That's a bop. That's my track.
That's one of my favorites that I have that's out now. That's like released is Anymore. That was fun.
Fuck yeah. It should be. I love it. But like all around, that was a fun EP to me because I felt like it drew influences. Now it makes sense as you explain it to me, but I felt like it drew influences from very much like a hip hop, like atmosphere type vibe. Then it had like a very like current, like nothing, nowhere inspired, just anything going on right now. But then it also had like a more sad pop punk acoustic B-side feel.
That was the first. So Swing Sets is the first time I've done like a project since the album. It was just a bunch of singles. Yeah. And a lot of like with Black Heart Emoji, we wanted it to kind of, sound different. There's a bunch of different songs in it, but kind of have the same vibe throughout it. Yeah. And then with this one, I was like, I want to work with different producers and I kind of just want to do like a bunch of different things. So it's all based on like what I was listening to. So it's like, yeah, still feeling it. It's like listen to Atmosphere and like I was listening to like a lot of like Alien Ant Farm. So it's got, when Starbringer sent me the beat with that guitar, I was like, this is like some early 2000s rock shit, like alternative. I was like, I gotta make a hook like that. And then when Local sent me the Anymore beat, I was like, all right, like I could do a typical like rap and be bummed out thing, but I was like, I want to try doing something like kind of poppy and upbeat, and then when Cold Blood sent me the beat for Let the Rain In, I was like, this is so different. Like I want to do something like this and kind of put them all together like with the similar sound, but like be very, very different with like a bunch of different influences as like one project. So it was definitely, because working with a bunch of different producers, I feel like it's maybe not as put together as the album was, but it's definitely like, I don't want to say more interesting, but it's kind of more interesting because it's just like a bunch of different things like boom, 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 hit you like
that's
different
totally
kind of songs back to back.
So for me as an uneducated music consumer, and I say uneducated just in like I don't know how to write an album. I don't know how to play music. I listen to a lot of it and I work around a lot of it. But there's kind of two albums that I love. Is like 1975 just put out an album. And
do you like it?
I do. I love it. And I'll tell you, like, so to me, that's an album where there's like maybe one standout song where I'm like, yo, I need to listen to this song. But when I have an hour's worth of work to do and I want to listen to one consistent vibe, it's perfect. Like it all fits together.
That's the reason I honestly didn't like it. I said it's a good 22 track album that could be a great 15 track album.
Oh, it could be fucking 7. But but I think that like there's two different kinds of albums or projects or EPs to me. Is like there's the ones that flow so painfully well together that it could be one big song. And for a certain mood, I'm absolutely here for it.
It's a vibe.
But then there's a project like Swingsets where it's such a beautiful variety and sampling of everything, where my musical ADD is like, it's so fun to just like hit play and have this 20-minute project that takes you everywhere. Like I equally love both of those. So
that's true. Because I'd probably give the new 1975 a worse rap than it deserves. It's a good album.
Well, but it's a good album when you're in that mood, right? It's a good album. You just kind of want to.
It's definitely put together very well. It's definitely like an album.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
Because Swingsets, I didn't want to be in it. I wanted it specifically to be an EP. That's why I kept it short. I was like, just gonna do a couple songs. It's an EP. It's not supposed to be like a project. It's not supposed to be Swingsets, the thing. It's just supposed to be like, here's a collection of a bunch of songs that I thought were pretty cool.
Yeah. And again, I think that like that's such a beautiful thing. I love that in music right now, you know, there's not really rules to that. Like you just, that's what you wanted to do. So you put it out.
Exactly.
And
you can do whatever the fuck you want now.
Right. So it's cool to hear that you're doing that, but then you're also going to get together with Brody and make something cohesive. And
conceptual. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cohesive is a good word. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that word. I don't know where I got it, but it's been in the vocab for a couple years. Let's go.
You should play Word Hunt with Taylor Morgan.
I know what Word Hunt is, but I'm kidding. I don't know what Word Hunt is. What is that?
He plays this stupid little iMessage game where you have to find words in the square, and for some reason, he's stupid good at it. I hate it. I'll like text him. I'll be like, hey, can you send me a beat? And he'll respond with like Word Hunt. Play Word Hunt with me. And I'm like, no, Taylor.
That's like Taylor, the key to like getting the beat. You have to beat him in Word Hunt first.
And I never will. I never have in my entire life. And I never will.
That's so funny. Talk to me a little bit about, you met Nick at that show. You guys were boys.
Yeah.
I believe you guys did a little tour together.
Yeah.
Am I right there?
Yeah. Last November 2019. So that tour is very interesting. It was supposed to be a McCafferty tour that Nick got on.
Was that tour.
Yeah. And then Carousel Kings, and Nick's like, hey, they're like offering I could bring someone else on. Like, do you want to come on? And we're like, yeah. And then like a month before, McCafferty's like, we're dropping out, because that's what McCafferty does. So at first they're like, yeah, so the tour's canceled. And we're like, fuck. But then the promoter who was putting it on with McCafferty's like, you guys know, like, if you want to, you can still go on the tour. And we're like, what? He's like, yeah, like we could just do a tour with just the three, you, Guardin and the Breathing Backwards and Carousel Kings. So we said, shit, yeah, let's do it. So with like a month to go, we're like, tour's back on, Guardin tour. We had a poster made up on Fiverr like in a day. We're like, Creature tour, let's do it. And it was cool because it was like, it was kind of our tour. Yeah. It was me, Nick, and Carousel Kings. And that was like, we got to do whatever the fuck we want. And it was my first tour. It was Nick's first headline tour. And it was Carousel Kings' like 300th tour.
Yep.
They're like a real ass band. They've like played.
They're like an old school pop punk band,
like,
right?
Yeah. And it was so sick because they're really good and they're the nicest people. And they were like helping us like understand how tour works and stuff. But it was also like we had so much freedom. Like we could play whatever we want as the house music. Like it was definitely not like most tours. And I have to keep telling myself that in case I go on another tour. But it was just like one of the most fun weeks I've ever had. Just traveling with Nick and Brody in the car and meeting up with Carousel Kings, good food all around, good hangs with people. It was, dude, that was fun. That was such a good tour.
That's awesome. And so that was the only tour you've done up to date, huh?
Yeah, I've done a couple one-off shows, some in Columbus, and then opened for Nothing Nowhere in Cleveland. And then I opened for Wicca Phase a lot when they come here. I think I've done it twice in Columbus. But that was the first like multiple day thing I've ever done.
Man, that's really cool to me because I got into like doing some kind of working in music in 2008. I started off selling merch and tour managing bands. So like that's all I knew. All I knew was tour, and then everything else came after. Mm-hmm. And that's what's so exciting to me about like, version 3 tour is kind of paused right now, like all the coronavirus stuff and everything. But with touring, like it's so fun for me to see all these artists that are incredibly talented that have this amazing music, but it's everything's kind of switched. Like now you don't need to tour first to get discovered. You get discovered on the internet and it's like bonus round to tour. So I love hearing like people just get so excited about touring. And,
I was definitely geeking. I was like, oh shit, like sold out show. Like that doesn't happen. But that's what I was, the whole tour, that's what I was saying. Like, we sold out a couple shows and it's like, it's so legitimizing. Cause like, I mean, people like Nothing Nowhere, Lil Peep, Bones, kind of the OGs. I mean, they kind of were the first wave of it. But then people like Shinny and Guardin and all the people now, like Convolk's popping off now too. It's like, we're kind of the second wave of it, and it almost took a little bit longer to kind of get to a place. It was just kind of like internet music, and that's kind of what it was, like SoundCloud and then Twitter. But now that like, I mean, it's, you see people touring and like, Nick and Morgan and Lund just did that tour, and I went to the show in Cleveland for that, and it's just like so legitimizing. It's like, this is real music now.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just like something that we do on the internet. Like, and you have people going viral now with like TikTok and all that bullshit. People getting like Nick hit like 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify. It's like, this is real. Like this is an actual form of music that is valid and like legit. And that's what that tour was to me. It's just like, we're doing it. We're like, I'm a real artist now. That was the first thing that kind of validated it.
And that's what I have so much respect. Like, obviously I don't know, and I just heard this, but like Carousel Kings for showing you guys the ropes and not being old, sad, shitty, jaded tour guys, but being like, yo, this is how you do it and all that. And like, that's what I was so excited to do with the version 3 tour and all of that, because it's like, I feel that there's a responsibility where there's this new music scene coming up and you can do it right, or you can fuck it up and ruin it before it ever starts.
Exactly.
So the fact that like, I mean, dude, I think Nick Guardin is such a great example of just a genuine dude that has built such a big fan base that he can go out and headline, but treats people like people and has so much love for everyone. And like, I think that
it's like, it became a thing. Cause like, when he was like, I think his first tour was the Oliver tour. And like on the Oliver tour, he'd like stay after the show and like meet people. And it was like great. But on this one, like he was the headliner. Like we would sit in the venue for like an hour and a half after the show. Cause Nick had to meet every single fucking person. And like, it's great. It's so cute. He's a good dude. Love him for that. But it was like, I'm hungry. But he would meet and that's why I respect him. Every single person who wanted to meet him, he would meet and like talk to, like have a conversation with. And it's like, it's really cool that people like that are like starting to like headline stuff, because it almost feels like, that's what I was saying, like the tour didn't feel like a normal tour because it was our tour. We could stay as long as we want after and talk to people, you know? It felt like not like a legit thing. Like there wasn't like a TM who was with us or anything. It was just, we're fucking around, going to cities, talking to people, having fun. Yeah. Which was sick.
And to have that supported, because you can do that and then you have 5 people show up and feel like a goob, but to do that and have people care and to see it growing and to see that there was a demand for that, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's sick.
That's
it's
awesome.
Legitimizing.
Yeah, I'm so glad that was your first experience with it.
No, me too.
And I really hope, like, again, like it's cool for me to record these early in an artist's career, because then it's like, damn, who knows what's next for you? Like, holy shit. So is that a big thing for you? Like, would you like to get back on the road when it's safe and when it makes sense?
I mean, I'm definitely, I've been like, kind of like, I'm not trying to go to a show till like next year. Like I'm trying to stay safe with it. But like whenever it becomes a thing and it's like actually safe again, like I loved it. Yeah, and just every tour, like every show, because like when I did like the Wicca Phase ones, it was like no one really knew me except for like my friends, because it was all local in Columbus. And then when we did Nothing Nowhere in Cleveland, most people didn't know me. I mean, people would come out after, be like, hey, that was really good, but like nobody knew me. And I vividly remember the Cleveland show of the Creature tour. So many, way more people than the other shows came up and were like, hey, like I saw you in Cleveland Nothing Nowhere. Like it's cool that you're on this tour with Guardin. And I was like, oh shit, like people remember shows. So it's like now, like more than ever, it's like I want to get back on and do stuff, because there's always like a couple people at every show who are just the kindest people. They're like, yo, like I really like your music. Like you really helped me. And it's like, you know, you'll get DMs about it and it's like super, you're like, yo, thank you so much. Like that's super powerful. But to have people like willing to like face their anxieties like in person, like come up to you and be like, hey, like you've helped me. It's like, bro, you've helped me. Like, like, what are you talking about? Like, you're the reason I'm doing this. Like, I should be thanking you for paying money to come out and see us. Like, that's,
oh my God.
It's so surreal.
I have so much love for a real diehard music fan in any capacity that takes the time to find an artist and learn their lyrics and learn their music, 100%. Show up to a show, buy a shirt, tell them how much they mean, because it's like to be on the other side of that, to create something and be so vulnerable and just hope that anybody cares. Yeah. When that person walks up to you and tells you they care, like, oh my God.
Exactly. Because like the tour was validating as like a music scene, but like that shit was like validating to me too. It's like, you know, because like the numbers, you always say the numbers don't matter, but then you look every fucking week. Like, what are my numbers at? What are my numbers at? And when they're not just shooting up after you drop something, it can be kind of like disheartening. But then like when you have people come up and say that, it's like, oh, like it almost holds me accountable. It's like I can't stop putting out music because there's people who care about it. And it's like a weird fuel to the fire. It almost is like, shit, like I have to keep, because I'm never going to stop making music because I feel things all the time. But it's like, every time I'm like, man, I should just stop this whole project and just like, I don't know, like get a business degree or, you know, some shit like that. It's like I can't because there's people who rely on it. And that kind of, it's a good feeling. It really is. It's stressful, but it's like very validating to me as like people give a shit, you know?
I love the way you express that. Cause I mean, again, like I don't fully know. I'm not an artist. I don't know what it's like to be like up on stage, but I certainly know what it's like to have a project or to have anything that you create and just hope people care. And when that's validated in any way, I think everybody can relate to that.
100%.
On that same line, this is a question that I always like to ask, and I never really care like where in a career somebody's at, because I think we all experience it and deal with it. But if you were to go back to any time in your life where it felt the hardest, the most trying, the most uncertain, the most like, fuck it, I give up, where do you go back to in your head, and what do you tell yourself now that you've evolved past it?
Dude, it's crazy because it's like every day.
Really?
You know, it's every other day. It's like I can't pinpoint. I'm trying to in my head, but like I don't even think I can pinpoint a part where that happens, because it's like it's not like it kind of goes up where it's like I doubt myself and then like now I'm slowly less doubting myself. It's like back whenever I was doubting myself. I mean, because like back when I was first doing stuff, like I'd get like 1,000 plays on a song and it was like, boom, that's validating, you know?
Yeah.
And now if I get 1,000 plays on a song, that's like disheartening, you know? So it's very much like as more good things happen, it's also easier to feel down about them. So it's just kind of like a wave. And I just have to keep telling myself, what I do is the opposite. I go back and I was like, man, like remember when like 1,000 people, like when I hit like 2K on SoundCloud, I was like, man, remember when 2,000 people following you was like a big thing? Like you got to kind of look at it in context of like right now. It's like, yeah, like all my friends might be shooting up way above me, but it's like, dude, I was at 2K and now I'm at so many K. Like that's like a thing. My dad was the one who texted me the other day and he's like, yo, you know you hit 20,000 monthly listeners on Spotify? And I was like, oh, only 20K? Okay. But then I thought about it and I was like, 20, like that's a landmark, you know? You really kind of just have to put it in perspective. And me and Brody talk about it a lot. Like, that's another thing of like us keeping each other in check. Like, I remember he put out a song right after the one he did with 93. He's like, yo, man, like this song's not doing good. Like, what do you think it is? Like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like not in a bad way, but I mean, you just put out a song with 93 Feet of Smoke. Like, of course that one's going to do better. Like, look at this one compared to like your first song that you did alone. Like, look at how much better it's doing. Like, it's all about just keeping your mind in context. So it's kind of the opposite. I go back instead of going like where I'm at now.
That's really cool, actually. I love it. Thank you for that answer. I think that's, not only do I love that, I think that that'll be really helpful to anybody listening too. Yeah. Because, you know, again, like, it's not like we're over here trying to front like you're the world's biggest artist. Like you're so early in your career with so many things. And I absolutely fucking think 20K on SoundCloud or Spotify is something to celebrate. And all of like exactly how you put that. If you compare it to one spot where you once were, you're always making progress. And it's so easy to forget that.
It's so easy. But that's why, like I said, like I love having people like Brody. Because it's like I know a lot of people in the scene, but he's like the like sorry. Since we're like real life friends, like we like talk about things outside of music, so we just definitely like have to go back and forth on things. And like there'll be times where like I'm like, oh man, like this song's not good, and he'll be like, dude, it's doing great. Like what are you talking about? We just kind of go back and forth of like keeping each other in check and like reminding each other, like put it in context. You know?
That's so important. Having any friend that will just keep it that real for you and be a champion for you when you need that, like fucking A, that'll get you through a lot.
That's why, I mean, like I don't have a lot of like close friends, but I recommend everyone just find like one close friend who like will be fully honest with you. Like we'll like rip each other's mixes apart. Yeah. You know? But like, because I'll send a mix to someone else, be like, hey, is this good? They'll be like, oh yeah, sounds great. And it's like, no, it doesn't. It sounds like shit.
Right.
That's the when Brody, you have be that like, too much low end. Your vocals sound like shit. Fix them. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And it you know it's coming from love, but they love you so much they'll be real.
Yep.
That's awesome. So my last question for you is, what's next?
Dude, I don't know at this point.
I mean, I guess you kind of answered it. Like you and Brody are gonna go.
We're gonna record the
album together.
I think right now I have more almost finished songs sitting in my vault than I ever have. Because after the project, it was just like I haven't been consistently dropping singles. I've just been making a bunch of shit. But I have some of my favorite songs that I'm gonna come out. So I think after, you know, everything's all back to normal and stuff.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just gonna drop singles. I got a bunch of, you know, couple Nothing Nowhere beats sitting in my fucking folder, just waiting, just waiting. Yeah, that's probably that's another perfect example. It's like when like I first met Joe and he was like, we played Xbox together. I was like, that's fucking crazy. I played Xbox Nothing Nowhere, and it's like now it's such a normal thing. But then it's like another little victory. It's like, oh, I opened for him at a show, and you're like, wow, like that's fucking crazy. And then like another thing, it's like, dude, he sent a beat. Like that's crazy. It's like all these little victories.
Oh, you're not saying a Nothing Nowhere inspired beat. You're saying like a beat from Joe.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking sick. Yeah. That's great.
A Nothing Nowhere beat. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually.
Dude, he was making it on Twitch, and I was just like, hey, I jokingly, I think I was like, I'll donate $500 to the Trust for Public Land if you send this to me. And he's like, dude, do you just want it? And I was like, yeah.
Damn. That's awesome. That's really cool.
We're #blessed. So I got a lot of cool shit that I want to do that's coming out. But right now, I mean, everything's on pause.
Yeah, no,
which
totally.
Validly.
Absolutely, 100%.
That's why my voice is so fucked from protesting and yelling a bunch.
Oh, damn. Yeah, but
I was
dude,
like, shit,
props.
I got to record a podcast soon. I'm going to be done.
Honestly, I'll take that. Very, very valid reason and much respect. It's definitely interesting. Like there's something so much bigger than any of this shit that we're doing.
It's just cool to see people doing it too. Like people are actually taking a stand, even in music. People are like, yo, not dropping a song. And it's like, shit, like that's cool.
It is cool.
People are really doing it.
It's really cool. I mean, dude, I definitely think that we're going through some very uncharted times, but they will be extremely memorable and extremely formative. And I really, really fucking hope in a good way. I hope that we come out of this stronger and better.
I mean, this is definitely the most interesting time to live in my whole life. In the last 22 years, 2020 is the most interesting time in the world right now, you know?
I fucking agree with you there, dude.
Crazy.
Jesus.
It's crazy.
But dude, thank you for doing this. I'm
man.
so glad that we took the time to do it. I mean, again, like it's cool for me to sort of know somebody, and then to take the time and just an hour to fully understand somebody and get that much closer. It gives me so much more excitement and hope for the music scene. And it just makes me like, I don't know, I just love it. It's just proof that there's so many people out there chasing a dream and doing their thing. And I love to hear it. So thank you for taking that time.
Of course, man.
Where can people find you?
They can find me on the internet. And
easy.
Instagram, I think, is The Breathing Backwards. Twitter, I think, is just Breathing Back. If you Google it, I mean, no one else has that fucking name. So if you just Google it, you'll find me.
Cool.
My shitty, long, lowercase name.
I'll put your links in the description, in the episode description too.
Big Betsky Wayne Gretzky.
So there it is, Andy's story. I really hope you liked this episode. If you did, again, the biggest favor that you can do for myself and the show is subscribing on Spotify, leaving reviews on Apple Podcasts, and just sharing the episode on social media or anywhere with friends. It is so massively helpful for growing it and so appreciated. If you want to go super above and beyond, I did open up a link to support the show where you can donate. That's in the episode description or at whereareallmyfriends.com. There's a little donate button. Another thing is, I love hearing from you guys. So if you liked this episode and you just want to DM me and say what you liked, or if you want to suggest a guest, or if there's something you didn't like, if there's some feedback or something that I could improve, hit me up. Let me know. I really, really love hearing from anyone listening to the show. So I'm at Andrew_FTW on Instagram. I'm always checking that. So there it is. Thanks for listening. I'll be back next week with another.